Good evening. New tensions have emerged in the coalition government, with the Deputy Prime Minister Nick Clegg accusing the Conservatives of breaking the contract between them. He was speaking after being forced to drop plans for reform of the House of Lords, after being told by David Cameron that not enough Tory MPs would vote for it. But Mr Clegg made clear he would hit back by scuppering plans to redraw constituency boundaries, which might have favoured the Conservatives. Here's our political editor, Nick Robinson.
Team GB may be outperforming expectations. Team Coalition is in real trouble. The Prime Minister and his deputy watched the opening of the Olympics together. But today Nick Clegg announced that on their plans for constitutional reform, their parties have split.
The Conservative Party is not honouring the commitment to Lords reform, and as a result, part of our contract has now been broken.
So, proposals for a historic reform of Parliament to stop members of the House of Lords being born or appointed and make them elected instead have been dropped, and the Lib Dem leader says the Tories will now pay a price.
Clearly, I cannot permit a situation where Conservative rebels can pick and choose the parts of the contract they like, while Liberal Democrat MPs are bound to the entire agreement.
This follows a massive Tory rebellion last month which forced ministers to abandon the timetable for reform.
We've listened carefully to the debate so far.
Nick Clegg looked glum then, but insisted he would plough on. Today, though, he warned the Tories they won't get the parliamentary change they want. A smaller House of Commons with fewer MPs, making it easier for them to win the next election.
We've not been able to proceed on Lords reform, frankly, because there's opposition in Parliament and the opportunism of the Labour Party that wouldn't allow the time for the House of Lords bill. But I think we've got to use this moment as an opportunity now to focus 110% on the economy, which is what the country wants.
Only last month, David Cameron and Nick Clegg appeared together to proclaim the coalition was still on track. There is, though, now the real prospect of Lib Dem ministers voting against one of their own government's bills on changing parliamentary boundaries.
The Conservatives have shown that they can't deliver their side of the deal. Labour haven't helped at all. We've tried. The Conservatives have failed us. So I'm afraid we have to show that they can't get one of the things they want either.
The House of Lords lies empty today, but its Grand Chamber echoes with promises of parliamentary reform which end up getting precisely nowhere. Nick Robinson, BBC News, Westminster.
Well, let's bring in Mark Pack from the website Liberal Democrat Voice in our Westminster studio. Thank you very much for joining us. Why are the Liberal Democrats hitting back by saying that they won't support something which actually they do support just because Lords reform's not going through?
It's a very simple situation, really. The coalition agreement involves both the parties, Liberal Democrats and Conservatives, having some issues in which we both want to have happen, and they're in the coalition agreement, but there are also some issues in there which the Tories want and the Lib Dems don't want, and vice versa. And I think quite sensibly what Nick Clegg, Deputy Prime Minister, has said today is, well, if the Conservatives are going to say, OK, we're going to wipe out one item that was in the coalition agreement, of course that will have consequences.
But why hit back against something that the Liberal Democrats surely should support? You say that you're a party that wants fairness for voters. Redrawing constituency boundaries would give much greater fairness to voters, because it would mean every vote is worth the same amount. It just looks like playing politics and being hypocritical, doesn't it?
Not at all. The proposal that will come forward from the Boundary Commission has, in a way, it's got two different things bundled up in one. One is making constituencies more equal in size, but the other is reducing the number of MPs. And the problem is, if we reduce the number of MPs without reforming the Lords, we will end up with a government that has too much and too strong a grip over Parliament, because government has its power of patronage to help control the House of Lords. And if there are fewer MPs, then the payroll vote, all the ministers, is a much greater proportion of the House of Commons. So we would be actually seriously unbalancing the political system by giving too much power to the government.
Why wasn't that point ever made before? I mean, these two issues have become intertwined because each party wants them so much, but that point's never been made before as why they're bound together, has it?
Well, it was a package deal. The coalition agreement had a whole set of different constitutional changes which were designed to work together and to work together in a sensible way. And if you've got a package deal, if you've got several different elements which counterbalance each other to bring a successful overall outcome, if you pull away one of those, it has a knock-on consequence on the others.
I mean, isn't the political reality that there was no way Lords reform was going to get through without the support of the Labour Party and with Tory MPs prepared to defy the party whip on the issue?
Certainly, if Ed Miliband had decided that not only in words but in deeds that he was willing to really back Lords reform, I think that would have made a huge difference. As you know, Nick Clegg said earlier today, Ed Miliband and the Labour Party were asked, well, how many days debate do you want to have on Lords reform? Can we agree a timetable? Let's say how many days there should be. And Ed Miliband and the Labour Party simply said, no, we won't say how many days there should be. I think in terms of the Conservative Party, David Cameron at the last general election during the TV debates, for example, he attacked Gordon Brown for having been in power with Labour for 13 years and not having introduced elections for the House of Lords. So when you have a leader of the Conservative Party attacking Labour for not having introduced elections to the House of Lords, I think it's quite understandable and quite sensible for the Liberal Democrats to have tried to hold David Cameron to that. And I think, David Cameron's made reasonable efforts to meet that commitment. Unfortunately, when it's come to the crunch, he's not been able to bring his party with him.
Mark Pack, thank you very much.